Welcome back to another episode of the React Native Radio Podcast. Brought to you by the Air Quality Index, the only leaderboard you don't want to top. Looking at you, Washington State. Episode 369. RNR Explains, AppRegistry.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of React Native Radio, specifically another episode of RNR Explains. Of course, I'm Robin. I'm Director of Engineering at Infinite Red, and I'm sitting here again with lovely Tyler.
Hello.
Tyler, if folks don't remember, can you remind everyone who you are and what you do and why you're here?
Yeah, you'll recognize me. Maybe now you'll recognize me from React Native Explains. But mostly, I am a staff software engineer here at Infinite Red, building React Native and Expo apps. And I do periodically edit the podcast as well. So happy to be.
You say periodically. I'm pretty sure it's every.
That's true.
It's
It's on a weekly period.
It's quite consistent, and you do quite well at it. So
that's the period of time that I edit the podcast is every week.
Yes, periodically.
Yeah, well, I think you'll be pulling that shift soon enough, so it will be periodic.
Yes,
maybe. But,
yes, it sounds like what's going to happen. So I'm excited to learn all of the fun things about audio editing.
Yeah.
From the pros. All right, yes, we're doing another episode of React Native Explains, which if you haven't tuned into one before, it's a bite-sized episode where we, quote, read the docs so you don't have to, but please read the docs. This is not an excuse to not read them, but maybe it will help you understand them in a way that you maybe couldn't before. Yeah, we love doing these. It's a good chance to go find something in the docs that maybe we use all the time or have never used, but would love to understand a little bit more. So, yeah. Before we tell you what the topic is and get into it, let's hear from our sponsor.
Infinite Red. Infinite Red is a premier mobile app consultancy focused on Expo and React Native. We're a team of 30 that's located fully remote in the US with highly experienced mobile app developers. And we've been doing this for over a decade. We're also one of the first development teams to adopt agentic coding in a way that keeps high quality standards while also being able to dive in and do things the old school way if we need to. If you're looking for mobile app, Expo, or React Native expertise for your next project, hit us up at infinite.red/contact. Thanks. And now back to the episode.
And we're back.
Wow, what a great sponsor read.
So great. Perfect.
Love hearing it through my headphones.
Perfect diction.
We stitch it together live.
For our listeners who've been with us for a long time, you probably, I don't know if people know that we have traditionally done the ad reads completely live during the episode recording. We more recently switched to doing them separately, which I think is more standard in the podcast world. Yeah. It allows for more flexibility of messaging and stuff. But for a long time, we just did it live, and it was fun. It was sort of part of our thing. But now we let Jed have his time to shine. But what are we explaining today? AppRegistry. I know some of you might be thinking, AppRegistry, what's that?
That's what I thought.
That's what I thought.
Jinx. I hope the audio is lined up well enough so people know that we did in fact say
we literally said that at the same time.
Yeah, Robin sent me the list of these and I was like, I don't know about that one.
That doesn't sound very interesting. You might think that, but I mean, here at Infinite Red, we for a long time have done things to sort of make the setup of a new app much more quick. We use our Ignite boilerplate. I think this probably is even actually generated just from a bare React Native init. It's not something you would ever actually type manually.
And if you're doing Expo, if you've seen register root component, this gets used under the hood there. So it's just it ends up in templates, right. Ignite, the community CLI, so Expo. You're almost never going to type it out.
People gloss over it because it's not something you use in your app. It's something that is used just to define to the native app where you're what component the native app needs needs to render, essentially. It would say it's probably in your like index.js or your app.js, maybe. It just says AppRegistry.register component, the name of your app, and then like a headless function that returns the actual component that is the highest level component of your app, has everything else inside of it. And so you're probably thinking like, okay, so that's what it is. What else is the rest of this episode going to be about? So if you read the docs, it actually has a ton of like methods on it. It's not just register component. There's a bunch of other stuff. And they do solve real problems. I think if you have built a brownfield app, you're probably already familiar with all the things that the AppRegistry does. That's the domain where it's most often used. But there's some other things too. So let's start with register runnable. What does that do, Tyler?
So register runnable takes an app key and then a JavaScript function rather than a functional component. I mean, it does actually. So register runnable is the thing that register component is built on top of. So it takes a function which can be a React component, but we'll ignore that for now.
Interesting. Okay, it's the more fundamental version of register component.
Right, but again, you wouldn't in as much as you wouldn't call register component, you even more wouldn't call register runnable unless you had some sort of JS logic you wanted to run as like the app entry point. If you were doing like end-to-end test runners or like a launcher that decides what to render, it is just a way for you to essentially register what is this app and what does it do as defined as JavaScript rather than native code.
So it's like so there's this concept of like a super app architecture that I've heard about where it's like it's one app, but then it has a bunch of different React Native apps inside of it. So this would be something you'd run. It would run logic to figure out like, okay, which app am I actually mounting right now? So it's just a way to run JavaScript logic without needing to return a component, essentially. Notably, it's also what you have to use on iOS if you want to do a headless task, which we'll talk about in a second, because that's only an Android. Okay, so the next one is get app keys, and that just returns all of the different keys that have been registered. This is most relevant to brownfield applications. So I worked on a client one time that did a brownfield app, and they had like 4 different screens within their native application that ran different things. Like the profile screen was one, the like edit your address screen. Small screens, but there was like 4 of them.
Right.
And they each had a key. And so like get app keys just like returns the different ones that you have available to you.
Almost like in the web, you do this less frequently these days, but early React days and early Vue.js days, you would like sprinkle in different individual like Vue or React apps inside of your existing website, right?
Notably, also, if you use like, if your app has a share extension or a widget or like an app clip, like one of these sort of like extra add-ons, they will be registered as their own process. And so they'll need their own key that will be called with the AppRegistry, which I didn't know.
Nice. I also, you did some research here. This gets used on React Native Windows and Mac OS for different components for like different windows and stuff too. So I haven't seen that.
If you have a desktop app that like pops open a different window that's running stuff, that's actually its own thing that needs to be registered with AppRegistry, and so it'll have its own key.
Up next, there's run application, which takes that app key and then some parameters. This is also something that both you probably don't write yourself, and also I don't think it shows up in the template really so much. This is just what it uses to actually run the app, but it does exist as part of the
You would need to
API.
know about this if you were maybe writing a native package or something.
Right. Or if you're trying to orchestrate.
Or editing like React Native internals, like
right.
But yeah,
right. The next one is a little more useful, probably one that people have actually used or come closer.
You
to
might
using,
actually have this in your app when you don't even realize it.
Which is register headless task. And this is what actually lets you run JavaScript code in the background on Android without any UI. So if you've done any of like the Expo background task packages, I think this is what's running under the hood. I should double check on the code. But if you've got a driver app like DoorDash or Uber, you could use this to continuously send GPS coordinates even when the app is backgrounded. Anything
right. Which it should be while they're driving.
Right.
I hope so.
I don't think that's what they do in practice, unfortunately. And then you can also do it in chat apps if you wanted to like process incoming messages in the background before a user opens the app to make sure that the inbox is populated. Anything you want to do in that background without having the UI layer. React Native Firebase registers a headless task for on background message. And we mentioned earlier, Robin said that you have to use register runnable for iOS because, again, this register headless task is Android only.
But if you're using React Native Firebase and probably other push notification libraries too, I would imagine, you're probably already using this without knowing it because that's what it uses. This is what it uses to do that, to do background messages. All right. Then we have start headless task, which is related. It's just the thing that native uses to kick off a headless task that we have registered. And then lastly, this one is cool. Set wrapper component provider. So if you're doing brownfield apps, you've most likely used this quite a lot. It just wraps every registered component with a provider component. So like if you have 4 brownfield apps, but they all need to use the same Redux store or like theme provider or whatever, this just makes it easy to wrap everything with the same one so that it can share state or context or theme or whatever it needs to share.
Yeah, that one's very cool to me. I'd like to see how that works under the hood.
Right. Yeah. I've done only a little bit of brownfield work in the past, and so this was a nice refresher for me about how that works. All right. That's kind of it. But like, it's actually really cool to know more about this thing that you literally put in every app you've ever made. And you're like, oh, it actually does more than I thought. So
I think this is a good example of it's interesting to read the docs even for stuff you use every day, because there's plenty of stuff that you probably don't think about and you may not really need to use, but it's cool to know that it's there and that there's a resource out there where you can go read all of the details.
I have found that it's really fun to read the docs when I'm not trying to do anything.
Find one specific thing. Right.
Because if I'm like trying to build something and I'm just reading it to find what I need, and I just like skim over everything else, and it's stressful to pause and read anything else because you're like, I don't have time for this. I need to just get what I need and get out. And it's fun to just be like, okay, no, my entire responsibility today is just reading this and learning more about it. So that's our goal here.
You'll be faster at recalling that something exists that you might need later on when you hit something that is relevant. I try and read the TypeScript documentation like once a year or so, just because there's so much in there. And I find that it helps me navigate faster when I do. And I don't remember all of it, but I don't remember most of it. But when I do need to go and look up something esoteric about TypeScript, I can find that spot a lot faster than I used to be able to.
That's really smart. And if your boss ever says, hey, have we thought about maybe doing like brownfield React Native? You can answer confidently like, I know a little bit more about how that would work.
Yeah.
So yeah, now you know about AppRegistry. I hope to see you next time.
See ya.
As always, thanks to our editors, Tyler Williams and Jed Bartosky, our marketing and episode release coordinator, Justin Husky, and our guest coordinator, Mazen Chami. Our producers and hosts are Jamin Holmgren, Robin Heinze, and Mazen Chami. Thanks to our sponsor, Infinite Red. Check us out at infinite.red/radio. A special thanks to all of you listening today. Make sure to subscribe to React Native Radio on all the major podcasting platforms.